and welcome to episode 28 of Creating a New World, the show about the 12 Visions world, a world of wealth, health, peace, love, and freedom that you can help create. I'm your host, Bill Hunsiker, and I'd like to welcome my co-hosts for this episode. First of all, we have Harry Dolgen. Welcome to the show, Harry.
Thanks, Bill. I'm happy to be on. Hello, everybody.
And we also have Bob McCaffrey. Thank you for joining us, Bob.
Thank you, Bill, and good morning, everyone.
And this show is about the 12 Visions world, world envisioned by author and entrepreneur Mark Hamilton, and that he wrote about in a book called The Visions, and he listed out 12 visions that describe that world. I would like to go ahead and read the list of visions.
I have it in front of me, unless you want to read it, Bob.
No, I don't have them available.
Okay, I have it. All right,
Okay.
here's the 12 visions for you of the 12 Visions Party. Vision 1, become the person you were meant to be. Vision 2, live the life you were meant to live. Vision 3, feel extraordinary every day. Vision 4, slow down aging permanently. Vision 5, land the job of your dreams. Vision 6, build the business of your passions. Vision 7, experience the love of your life. Vision 8, have the body you always envied. Boy, I'd like that one. Vision 9, become a genius of society. Vision 10, have everything you ever wanted via the free-to-soar geniuses and super technologies. Vision 11, ride a prosperity wave to riches via falling prices and soaring buying power. And Vision 12, enjoy nearly perfect health via soaring medical technologies and falling prices.
Thank you, Harry. I just wanted to mention that every show we talk about the 12 Visions world. Then we have a short break in which we played a little game that I created known as Where's the Force. Then we talk about how we're going to create the 12 Visions world via the 12 Visions Party. And we finish up with how you can help create the 12 Visions world. So we'll go on now to the topic of the first segment, the 12 Visions world, and that topic is war. Unfortunately, war is a big part of the world we live in now. Fortunately for us, here in the United States, it doesn't affect us directly, but it does affect us indirectly in the form of high taxes and national debt and things that affect our economy negatively, but it affects people elsewhere in the world a lot more directly in basically loss of their homes, fear, and loss of their family, and ultimately, for some very unfortunate people, loss of their lives. In the 12 Visions world, war will not exist, but in the transition, once the 12 Visions Party changes the United States government to a government of protection only, there will no longer be intervention in other countries' civil wars or intervention to change the leadership in other countries, which is what is done almost routinely in today by our country. War will only be done in self-defense. We will only attack other people to defend our government will only attack other countries to defend ourselves from them attacking us or threatening to attack us. And therefore, war won't be what it is now, which is a way, unfortunately, to make people who produce war materials rich. It will only be a way to protect the individuals who live in the United States and in other countries as they become as they convert their governments to protection-only governments. Does anyone else have any comments on that?
I don't know. Well, to me, I don't understand in this day and age why the United States government always has to be the big brother and go into every other country and try to help them. Meanwhile, in our country, and especially in New York City, we have such poverty. If you go into Manhattan, New York, you see all the derelicts on the street. I think the U.S. government should concentrate on taking care of all the social programs that affect people here in our cities in the United States instead of worrying about the other countries out there in the world. That's all pretty much I wanted to say about that.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yes, and the answer to that, of course, as I alluded to before, is of course money. You can't make money out of helping the poor, feeding the poor, but you can make money out of selling arms and weapons to others to fight wars in their country. You can make a lot of money doing that, and that's what it is. War is big business.
So it's an illusion. It's an illusion.
You're selling weapons to both sides.
Yes, war is big business for people who don't care about human lives, and unfortunately, there are quite a few people out there now that don't care about human lives, only care about piling up money. I mean, I don't mind money, but I would not want money that I got by giving people the means to kill and hurt and destroy the lives of other people.
Yeah. But don't you think there should be more focus on the government trying to help the people in our country instead of everybody out there, the concerns of everybody out in the world? We should come first.
Of course I agree with that, but that's not what our leaders see. They see the best way to help their friends and themselves. Every person who's elected to Congress comes out or becomes rich after they're elected to Congress. That's the real reason they want to become elected to Congress. When you're making hundreds of $1,000s a year just sitting around talking about things, which is basically what they do, then you easily get rich, not to mention that they're exempt from laws such as insider trading. They know how the policies that they're going to enact, they know how they're going to affect the economy, which businesses will benefit from those policies and which won't, so they know which businesses to invest in, and they make lots of money based on what they decide as politicians. That's the real reason to become part of the federal government, or to become part of your state government on a somewhat smaller scale, is that you basically become rich by taking advantage of the knowledge you have as an insider in government, because unfortunately we have a government-controlled economy, and what they decide determines is what businesses succeed and what businesses fail, so they can become rich. And one way to really become rich is by creating a situation where there's a war, and then you can authorize the purchase of tons of military equipment and weapons and ammunition and all of that, and make your friends rich, and then they'll help you because you made them rich by creating a situation where they could sell what they're manufacturing. And that's the way government works all around, and it's not just war, but war is just the worst part of it, because war directly negatively impacts the lives of so many people around the world. And that's why we have the situation we have now, where hundreds of thousands of people are fleeing from an area that has become horribly destroyed by war because they can't live there anymore because there's no place to live. All the housing's been destroyed. There's no work. There's no way to survive there. There's no way to earn a living. So they have to go find it somewhere else. And that's what's happening. And this is causing problems for the people who live in the countries that they're fleeing to, because a sudden influx of hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of people into an economy makes it very difficult. It's hard to absorb that many people, especially when you're having problems supporting the people that already live in your country, which is the problem we were talking about just a moment ago with our country.
Yeah.
And and this is the downside of all this. Now, I have no problem with people immigrating. In fact, I endorse an open a world with no borders, and where people can move wherever they want and live wherever they want. That's what I see in the 12 Visions world. But unfortunately, the way things are set up right now, anytime, because economies are controlled by the government, and because we have a welfare state that basically anybody who can manage to get over the border can walk into an office, fill out a form, and then suddenly they have money and support and food and everything. That's very tempting when you live in a country that doesn't have that and where you're basically starving, and it's, and also it makes it so you don't have an incentive to just get out there and earn your living, get out there and earn your way through the world when you have a government that's giving money, giving away, and I understand the idea that we have to help people who are in a poor situation, but I think the better way to help them, I had a bit of a 10-second miracle last evening. I was thinking about this, and also a business idea, which is basically set up a Neothink school and bring people in off the street, homeless people, show them Neothink, help them, give them shelter and food for a certain period of time, show them Neothink, help them learn to think for themselves, how to integrate, how to do business, and then, basically when you bring them in, they sign a contract that says, when I leave, any money I earn, 10% of it will go to the school.
Interesting idea.
So basically it's a loan it forward kind of idea. And then, set a certain amount, $10,000, $20,000, and then, and arm them with Neothink. And when they go out in the world and start and build a business and start bringing in money, they send 10% of that money to the school that, that taught them Neothink, and pay them, But if they go out and they don't succeed, they don't pay anything. And there's nothing that says that they owe the money and they have to pay it. Only says if you succeed, you share this much of your success with us to a certain point. And I think we could set up schools like that across the country in every city, and just, but give people the choice. You don't bring them in by force. You approach them, you talk to them, you offer it to them, and if they're willing to agree to the terms, then you bring them in and house them and feed them and teach them about Neothink and how to build a business and prosper on their own, how to be a self-leader. And that's the idea he came up with, and I think it's a great idea, but I think in the world we live in now it would be really difficult to do, because you can't just set up a school. You have to go through all kinds of licensing, and you have to register your business, and basically it's all designed to discourage people from doing things like this.
Yeah.
But I think that's a much better solution. I mean, a soup kitchen is great, but I think a soup kitchen is really a Band-Aid, whereas this is heal for this problem, a permanent solution for this problem, but it would be very difficult to implement in the world we live in now.
Yeah.
You basically have to be bankrolled quite extensively to, to set up your business in accordance with current laws and regulations and certify people to teach and those sort of things. But I'm really considering talking to Steve about this idea and seeing if I could partner with his coaching business, which Bob is a part of. No, he isn't. I'm sorry, Bob.
No.
I'm thinking of someone else.
Charlie Moore.
But yes, Charlie, who's who I was thinking of. But basically, this would be a natural extension of their coaching business, I think. But it's something that it's a great idea, and I think it would work better once the 12 Visions Party has converted our government from the government on the offense that we have now that discourages people from, creating a business. And also, this is not the traditional way you help the poor.
Right.
And that everyone will say that we're money-grubbing capitalists, that we shouldn't be asking people to give us money after they go back out into the world. That we should just do this out of the kindness of our hearts, that we should be altruistic about it. Yep. So, it's an idea. I'm gonna continue to think about it. I may talk to Steve and Charlie about it and see if there's any way this idea could be implemented. Now, I know it would be very difficult, as I said, because our government basically, over-regulates and makes it difficult for anybody to set up a business. Plus, people would look at what we were trying to accomplish and say, that's not the way you help the poor.
Yeah, and the funding issue too, and with the big shots in government. Yeah. It
has to be bankrolled because people aren't going to get out, especially in the society we live in today, and automatically start making money. We've seen how difficult, even with Neothink, it is to get out there and build a business. It's possible. We've seen a few people succeed at it, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
And that's the point. So it may be a while before we have a lot of people out there, prospering and funneling, money back into the business. But so this sort of thing would have to be bankrolled. Basically, you'd have to be successful and prosperous in something else and have the money to, lease the building and, all of that kind of stuff. Have the money to start the business before you actually had people go out and start paying you back for what you've done for them.
Yeah.
So it would be difficult to set up. But to me, this is a better idea than going out and telling people we don't like your government. We think it's a threat to us, so we're going to kill you and destroy your lives and make your country unlivable because we don't like your government. Or we're gonna sell arms and weapons to other people so they can make your country unlivable, which is what we have now, which is what war is.
Yeah.
So any other comments on that topic or the idea that I discussed?
I like the idea, your thoughts for the classes and the training. However, I think the government would see it better if they did it, and then they could take the taxes from the businesses.
Yeah, that's the problem. Like I said, we have government on the offense.
Yeah.
We don't have real freedom here, no matter how much they pretend we do. Because everything you want to do, you got to get permission. You can't do anything on your own. It's not we're going to watch you, and if you do something wrong, then we're going to stop you. We're going to prevent everybody from doing something wrong by making it difficult for anybody to do anything.
Right. No, I think it's a well thought out plan, and I agree with Bob. The government's going to actually take all the credit for it too. and so I don't know. I don't know. It's going to be hard to implement that.
I mean, I think that would be a definite solution for the homeless problem. There'll still be a few people that, you know, that will either not like the idea in the first place and refuse to become involved, or have mental handicaps that prevent them from learning.
Yeah, well, there are people out there that don't have any ambition whatsoever, and anything that involves them doing something to get something, they're not going to be interested. They'd rather have the free meal.
Yep,
True.
but unfortunately, as we've shown, there's not enough free stuff to go around, or we wouldn't have people on the street homeless.
Right.
You know.
Well, it's all out there. I mean, there is enough food and everything to feed everybody and shelter everybody in the world. It's just a matter of distribution and getting the people to where it is.
Yeah, and it's
the
all.
People that have the ambition to do what it takes to get it also.
Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, we have people who are more interested in making money than actually helping people.
Yeah.
And
that's the biggie.
All around the world, we have that. And all this foreign aid that our federal government sends out to countries all around the world, most of it ends up in the pockets of the leaders and doesn't get to the people. You know, and yet we still keep giving them money.
Yeah.
You know, or it goes to buy weapons so that they can wage war on their neighbors. You know, and.
Yeah.
That's the kind of messed up world we live in, and we have world leaders who are more interested in staying world leaders than they are in actually helping people.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to me. All three of us see that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the masses, it seems like they're still stuck in that bicameral mode, and either they're afraid to do something like short of a revolution
Mm-hmm.
to try to help. You know, they're stuck. It's like they're programmed and they're robots, or they don't want to face the reality. And us three on the show, we see all this that's going on, and we're trying to make a change in our own small way. And it just boggles my mind how people don't see what's going on out there with the government.
Yeah, a lot of people are afraid if they try to do something, they're going to get a free meal.
Yeah. The fear factor, right?
And that's part of the illusion that has been created. That because they set up all these programs, like
social
welfare, food stamps, all of this stuff, and then they put in regulations that say if you try to help yourself, if you start earning money, even a little bit, we're going to take it all away.
Yep.
And that sets up the fear that I shouldn't do anything because I'll lose what I have.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. Right. Well, no matter what you do, no matter what business does, no matter what they do to buy goods and services, the government will always get a share.
Yep. That's what I always say. Anytime money changes hands, the government, there's a representative of the government standing there with their hand out for their cut.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how it is. If you, and here in New Jersey, as we three know, our legislature is constantly trying to find new ways to take money from us through taxes and fees, and and the towns are saying, oh, we take the taxes so we can provide you government services. Oh, but then again, we're going to charge you fees for those same government services.
Yep, absolutely.
And I definitely agree with, this isn't original with me, but a government license is a right that they've taken away from you and sold back to you.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yep.
So we just got to wake up the people in this country. We got to wake up the people in New Jersey. I mean, it's just us. Actually, us three are on the show. Well, we have two other offices in the 12 Visions Party, and that's it. We really should, all 5 or 6 of us should go out there and try to bring this neo-think and the 12 Visions Party to the world. I mean, that's what it's really about, right, Phil?
Mm-hmm.
Bob?
That's what it is, and that's what this show is all about.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm trying to find new ways to market it, including turning it into a podcast, and that'll reach people in a lot of other venues other than Google Plus Hangouts, which is what we're doing now, basically. Okay, unless anybody has any final comments, we'll move on to the next section, which is where's the force? Which is and today's topic, which is in line with what we just discussed and what we'll be discussing in the next section, but not strictly limited to that, is government contracts. Bob, where's the force?
Government contracts. I'm not really up on that, Bill, so I don't have an answer for you right at this moment.
That's fine. That's not a problem. Harry.
Yeah, I think Bill's put us on the spot in this episode. You know, I'm not that up on that too. Government contracts. Well, there's force in. Well, of course, they make money on it. They have to get a government contract. No, you know what? I really have to think about it also, to be honest with you.
Okay, not a problem.
Why don't you enlighten
this is a first for me.
Yeah, I mean, you caught me off guard.
I've actually stumped the panel.
Yeah, you caught me off guard.
Which is a first for me. But that's what this is all about. Now, I don't know all the ins and outs of government contracts, but I'm sure everybody's heard of the $1,000 hammer or the $500 toilet seat.
No, expand on that.
Having been in for me in the Air Force, it was a constant joke how much the stuff, our supplies cost. It was a constant joke. And the force there is creating procurement policies and rules that allow these kind of overpriced items, and therefore, paying $500 for a possibly $30 item. If you went down to your local hardware store and got a toilet seat, you could probably get one for $15 if you weren't picky. And that's the military. And why does a fighter plane cost $1 billion? It's ridiculous. I know it's special materials and computer programming and all this, but do we really need something that costs $1 billion? And but the whole process is ridiculous. And it's not only the military; it's every place where the government buys something from a company, and it's your local town where the mayor takes a kickback to allow the company to charge a 200% or higher markup on what they're selling to the town.
Mm-hmm.
That's force. That's of course that's dishonesty and everything. But that's where the force is. It's people using their power to benefit their friends and ultimately themselves. That's really where the force is when you talk about it. Anything the government does.
So this is with military contracts, mostly, is what you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about any government contracts.
Anytime
the government buys anything, whether it's equipment or goods or services.
Okay.
Anytime,
I follow.
There's almost always dishonesty and greed involved, and the procedure for choosing who to buy goods from is set up so that the people in government can help their friends, because their friends obviously help them get into office, where they could get rich.
And you saw that in the Air Force.
Yes, I
right?
saw
You
that
saw
in the
all
Air
this?
Force. I saw that in the, the how much things cost that because we could see we had to budget what, for our supplies and everything. And when you see how much everything costs, and you know that you could walk down to the corner store and get it at half as much, and in some cases 1/10 as much, something crooked is going on.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting.
The place where you work, Bob, do they contract with the government in any way? I don't know.
No, not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. But that's where the force is. It's people, using their position of power to
Right.
influence what is going on.
We're,
Okay.
we're
Yes.
tied in with the big distributors like Walmart and Home Depot and Lowe's and places like that.
hmm Okay. I'll point out one particular example. I mean, I think vaccination is a good thing, but I think it's a bad thing when they make it mandatory, and then the government pays for it, and they overpay for it. And therefore, and the reason that they made it mandatory and was so that the government so that they could set it up with the government to sell it to the government at a greatly inflated price. That's the part I don't like. I mean, I can understand the need for vaccination, but because everyone keeps pointing out, how much dangerous chemicals there are in there, but their chemicals are in tiny amounts. That's a fallacy, thinking that there's a little bit of some chemical that is dangerous, but it's not really dangerous until you have more of it than the little bit that's actually in something. So they try to point that out. But the real thing is, I lived in a world where there was very little vaccination. I mean, and so did Bob. So did you, Bob. And I had smallpox, I had the mumps as a kid, and vaccination prevents kids from having to go through that, and those diseases are potentially scarring. But I don't know if you are, but I'm not old enough to remember when kids had polio and had to, and were walking around with braces and all those sort of things, and had, in some cases, had to be in an iron lung. That was before my time, but I'm aware of it. And that's the kind of horrors that we've eliminated with vaccination.
Did you hear on the news, both of you, in New Jersey, 2 women who worked in a school didn't want to get vaccinated, and the government was forcing them to get a vaccination, or there's a possibility of them getting fired from their job in the school, and none of these women have ever been sick a day in their lives. So the government's taken away their right to say no. It was in the news. I'm not sure what school district in New Jersey, but I mean that's. Did you hear about that, Bob?
No, I didn't.
Okay, all right.
Well, I have to take the flu shot as a condition of my employment because I work in a hospital. I mean, I don't work directly with patients, but I work in a hospital.
Well, what about well, you think it's mandatory that they should get vaccinated if they work in a school?
Well, you are exposing yourself to a lot of kids, and there are some kids that have health conditions that prevent them from being vaccinated.
Does the government have the right to tell them they have to get vaccinated? I don't think so.
Unfortunately, in the world we live in now, they do. But, I mean, I think in the 12 Visions world, people will get vaccinated voluntarily because they will understand the need for it.
Yeah, that's my point. Yeah. Should be a voluntary.
And there will be more development because we're using vaccinations that were developed 30, 40 years ago. And, I mean, we may end up with nanotechnology or something else that will prevent diseases rather than what we do now,
Mm-hmm.
But disease prevention will develop quickly once we get into the 12 Visions world. Unlike now, like I said, where we're using vaccines that were developed 30, 40 more years ago, and we're only modified in the 90s because people made a big stink about like trace chemicals that were in them. So even though there was no proof that they were actually harming people, they still modified them again.
Yeah, that gets into the whole thing of what has the government done with all the diseases that we had. The money is not going into research, apparently. And, you know, the drug companies want to keep people sick, in my opinion. If it's something that's curable, they can't make money. They can't profit from it. So it's not sold to the public, you know? So that gets into that realm there, too.
Yeah,
You know?
well, it's a matter of profits over people.
Yeah.
That's what I always say. That's where people are evil, when they care more about money than they care about other people. And then they use their money and influence to influence the government, you know. And I can't say for certain whether certain cures for diseases have been
Stagnated or stagnated.
or prevented from appearing or whatever, because I don't know. And I can't, and I won't speculate on it, but I can see in the world we live in today the possibility of people being able to, you know, influence the government and prevent things so that they can keep making a profit from what they're making.
Yeah.
And we had an example of that recently with that jerk who bought out that certain drug and then raised the price from $13.50 a tablet to like $400, $450 a tablet.
I heard about that.
Yeah. And that's an example of profits over people.
No, that's outrageous.
Yeah, it's insane.
The margin on that is like 1,000%.
Yeah. I mean, if the people that own the rights of that medication were making money at $13.50 a pill, then everything that guy added to it was pure profit.
Absolutely.
And that just shows, you know, where people's heads are today, where they see money as more important than people. That's all I have to say about it.
Absolutely. That's where the government should step in. Okay.
Okay, we'll move on to the next section, which is creating in the 12 Visions world with the 12 Visions movement. And we're going to continue reading the national platform of the 12 Visions Party. We're on page 31, the section titled National Defense. But first, if someone would like to read the Prime Law, I have it in front of me if no one else has it ready. But if someone is,
I can do that.
Okay, go right ahead, Bob.
The Prime Law, the fundamental of protection. The purpose of human life is to prosper and live happily. The function of government is to provide the condition that lets the individuals fulfill that purpose. The Prime Law guarantees those conditions by forbidding the use of initiatory force, fraud, coercion by any person or group against any individual, property, or contract. Article 1. No person, group of persons, or government shall initiate force, threat of force, or fraud against any individual, self, property, or contract. Article 2. Force is morally and legally justified only for protection from those who violate Article 1. Article 3. No exceptions shall exist for Articles 1 and 2. The Prime Law is a fundamental natural law of protection that directs all decisions and actions of the 12 Visions Party. The Prime Law may not be amended.
Yeah, real quickly, Bill.
Yes.
The people who are seeing this recording for the first time, who just saw this episode, just explain. I know what the Prime Law is. What is the? But explain to them. What do you mean the Prime Law? What is that?
The most important part of the Prime Law is initiatory force.
Okay.
Initiatory force is any force, you know, that is not self-defense. So it's everything from from hitting somebody to obviously killing them to threatening to do those things, to coerce them into doing something you want to do. I mean, that's why taxes and almost everything else the government does is wrong, because they are threatening you with force if you don't do what they're telling you to do. As self-defense really is defense from somebody who's using initiatory force. If somebody's threatening to hurt you or kill you, then you can defend yourself to the point where they are no longer threatening to kill you. That's why if someone's threatening to kill you, you can kill them to prevent them from killing you.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is that they threaten to kill you first. You don't go to them and kill them and then say, "Oh, he was going to kill me." There has to be, there has to be objective proof that they were trying to kill you.
Okay.
So it's very, it's very important that you understand that self-defense is only in the face of someone using initiatory force. And the prime law says that no one can use initiatory force, including people representing themselves as government. Right now, the government has almost exclusive monopoly on initiatory force.
Mm-hmm.
That's how government works. And this law would say that you can no longer do that, which would basically make, because that's the definition of government now. So then, once this law is in place, government would become a business that you would pay for voluntarily that provides protection from initiatory force. That's the whole point.
And we want to make that a part of an amendment to the U.S. Constitution right now.
Yes.
In this
Right.
world today. Okay.
And constitutions around the world.
Okay, fine. I just felt that's important for people to understand that if they're viewing this for the first time. Okay.
And we can, and if you watch previous episodes, we have discussed that in depth
Right.
previously.
Right. Okay.
So who would like to read? I'm going to try to give my voice a little bit of
Okay, I
rest.
can read, I guess.
Okay, just read the section on national defense.
Okay, I'm reading the section on national defense. Okay, in America, the budget for national defense competes with the budget for entitlements. Hamilton America sighs disapproval over Sister America's haunting internal conflict of spending her federal tax revenues on welfare versus national defense. Over time, the conflict causes a rising threat to national security. Indeed, over time, that battle of the budget, funding welfare versus national defense, puts growing pressure on lowering the priority of national defense. Hamilton America abhors the thought. America struggles with this undermining threat to national security. Over time, in a country increasingly run by rule-of-vote gathering men, national security loses the battle. Hamilton America cannot fathom the thought. In Hamilton America, all government money, energy, and focus goes into the single proper purpose of the federal government. National defense and the other functions of the prime law protection. No budgetary conflict of interest begins to undermine national security, as in America. In Hamilton America, every thought accompanied by life and death seriousness goes towards national security and justice. Protection is not only the top priority, it is the only priority. Nothing works against national security. Nothing competes with national security. No such internal conflict exists. Focused only on protection, Hamilton America quickly builds the most cost-efficient and most effective military in the world. Hamilton America's military rises quickly, for the demand for peace and protection in the booming economic powerhouse very quickly draws forth the supply, the military defense. Again, in Hamilton America, the citizens, the luckiest and the wealthiest people alive, demand, and voluntarily pay for peace. To meet their demands, the best weapons innovators and manufacturers rise and thrive in Hamilton, America. Those weapons innovators and manufacturers race ahead with Hamilton, America's unprecedented great technological revolution. With the catalyst of pure freedom, with no political burden or interference, the ingenious creators advance weapons technology the way they advanced the computer technology. Relatively soon, to attack Hamilton, America, would be committing military suicide. Moreover, to remove threat of force, a prime law requirement, Hamilton, America, righteously and consistently uses its superior weapons technology to exterminate any high-threat terrorist group securing nuclear or biological weapons of mass destruction. That extermination sends a chilling message to all other terrorist groups racing towards more potent weapons. Once you violate the prime law by becoming a threat to Hamilton, America, you will be exterminated. Meanwhile, poor sister America, held in political bondage, eventually gets hit again and again with devastating, deadly chemical and biological and nuclear terrorist attacks. Millions of Americans die. Wow. That's something. Wow.
So anyone wish to comment before I comment on that?
Oh boy, where do we start? No, comment.
I mean, this is what I was alluding to before. I mean, this is until the entire world is ruled by the rule of law, the prime law. We are going to need defense from people and other countries. People are going to, we are going to basically. I mean, in my opinion, we're going to get out of the world police business, at least as it's being done now. We're going to stop trying to change governments in this very inefficient way that results in death and destruction for thousands and tens and hundreds of thousands of innocent people, and potentially millions if we ever use nuclear weapons again. We're going to change. We're going to do that. Our military is going to withdraw from the over 100 countries that is currently in. And we're going to just target people that threaten us in reality. We're not going to have political leaders telling us that Iraq has weapons of mass destruction, which don't exist. We're not going to have political leaders telling us that the situation in Syria threatens us directly as Americans. We're not going to have that. We're not going to have an intelligence community whose main purpose is to overthrow the governments in other countries, which is what we have now. We're going to have an intelligence community that only looks for threats to the United States, only looks for threats to the individuals that live in this country. And we're going to have a military that only eliminates those threats, as outlined here, that only attacks those, and will have weapons that can eliminate those people without hurting innocent bystanders. The biggest problem now is every time you try to bomb a terrorist group, you kill hundreds of civilians that have nothing to do with it.
Right.
And then those civilians turn into terrorists because their families turn into terrorists because they hate us because we killed their families.
Yeah.
That's where terrorists come from. Now, there are also people who have religious or other ideological ideas that make them attack other people. But the main source of terrorists against America is our actions there. are hurting their families, killing their families and friends. That's where most of the terrorists come from. There are others that come from other reasons too, but the majority of them come from that, from what we've done to them, or what our government has done to them. I don't take responsibility for it other than the fact that I didn't try to prevent it. That's the only responsibility I take for it.
Yeah.
Any other comments on that?
No, it's a wonderful passage we just read. To me, the prime law is a very simple, but it's a profound law. And, you know, it would remove the leaders' power and control over people. And the thing is, we never had a initiatory-free force society. And to a lot of people, that probably seems really crazy or ridiculous, because there's never been a political system that's ever existed without power of initiatory force. But, you know, in the platform, all along the platform, it will explain how we will receive pure freedom. So it's a wonderful passage, and you know, we got to work on trying to get it, raise the consciousness of people, and teach them about this, and educate them about this, and it's a wonderful thing. That's all I can say. That's all I can say about that. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other comments on that?
None for me.
Okay, no problem. We're gonna go ahead and move on to the next section, which is how you can help create the 12 Visions world, and
I want to know that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the main way is to become involved with the 12 Visions party. Basically, there are many ways you can become involved, but even below that, there is just telling other people about the 12 Visions world and what you think of it and why you think it's a good idea. But then you can also support the 12 Visions party either by volunteering time or contributing money, and you can also become directly involved in planning and executing the 12 Visions party to bring about the 12 Visions world. So anyone that would like to become involved in New Jersey can basically can contact us either by finding the 12 Visions Party of New Jersey page on Facebook and saying you're interested, posting on there and saying you're interested, by finding the 12 Visions Party of New Jersey community on Google Plus and posting on there that you're interested, or you can contact me directly via email if you want. My email address is whunsicker@gmail.com, and I'll repeat the first part, whunsicker@gmail.com, and I will be happy to help you get involved with the 12 Visions Party of New Jersey. If you live in a different state or a different country, then you can go to the website tvpnc.org, O-R-G, and that's tvpnc.org, O-R-G, and there's a place where you can volunteer to help, and those people will get you in contact with the people that are organizing the 12 Visions Party in your state or country, and you can get involved in it that way. Also,
does it cost anything, Bill, to watch the episodes?
No, it doesn't. That was the next thing I was getting to.
I'm sorry.
Absolutely not. You can also help by telling people about this program, and directing them to the place where you can. There are actually three places where you can easily watch the program. The first is to create a new world.blogspot.com, and I'll say that one more time, to create a new world, all one word, .blogspot.com. You can also go to YouTube and find and subscribe to the YouTube channel CNW Show, and you can also go to patreon.com/creatinganewworld, and you can watch the show for free there. You can watch the show for free any of these places. You can also come on and watch us create the show live. Right now we're taping it Saturday mornings from 8:30 to 9:30.
Eastern Standard Time.
Eastern Standard Time. Thank you, Harry. You can watch that live. And when you go to the Patreon.com site, if you want to, you can help the show by pledging as little as $1 per episode, and that will help us to improve our equipment, improve everything that we're doing to create this show, and it would be greatly appreciated. But even if you don't have the money to help us that way, you can basically go to YouTube and like the episodes of the show. You can subscribe to our channel on YouTube, CNW Show, and you can do all these things. And eventually, we're going to be creating a podcast version of the show, and you can subscribe to that version of the show, and then wherever you find it, you can rate it once that is created. All these things will help create the 12 Visions world, either by becoming involved with the 12 Visions party or by helping us continue to create this show, creating a new world. Anyone else have any comments on that?
No, all I can say is please go out there and support the show. I mean, me as being a panelist on the show, I had a blast. The interactions were wonderful. I learned a lot. I'm here with like-minded individuals, and I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that are the same way. So, again, support the show, get in contact with Bill Hunsicker, all right, and give whatever you can. But view the show first. They're all free.
Right.
All right, we'll go ahead and bring the show to a close now. I'd like to thank my co-hosts for joining me. I'd like to thank you, Bob McCaffrey. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it, and it's a pleasure to be here. I haven't been participating as well as I would like to today because I'm a little bit under the weather today, but I'm here.
Perfectly understandable. I'd also like to thank Harry Dolchin. Thank you for coming on the show.
I loved it. As I just said, it was a blast. And Bob, it doesn't matter. Again, there's no initiatory force on this show.
Nope.
So feel better.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'd like to thank anyone who views this show and shares it with others. If you have any questions, please send them to cnwshow@gmail.com. You can see previous episodes at www.tocreateanewworld.blogspot.com. Like us on Facebook. Search for CNW Show on Facebook. Join our Google Plus community, also CNW Show on Google Plus. And you can support the show by telling your family and friends about it. You can also support the show by going to www.patreon.com/creatinganewworld and pledging $1 or more an episode. All opinions expressed on the show are the sole responsibility of the individual participants and do not represent the Neothink Society, the 12 Visions Party, or author Mark Hamilton. Creating a New World is a production of Integrated Values, LLC. I wish everyone wealth, health, peace, love, and freedom.
Bye.